Hi everyone, Celt here, bringing you my thoughts on the British royal family, and today I'll be answering some more questions, so it'll be another Q&A on my last two videos. The first question: Celt, love your channel and have been with you since you started. My question is, can you explain what a super injunction is and what it does? Who puts it in place? We Americans don't have that over here, thank you. Well, a regular injunction is powerful enough in its own right, but a super injunction is a much more powerful version of a normal order, and it provides an extra layer of protection for those at risk of defamation. Under English law, a super injunction prevents the publishing of any details from an ongoing legal case, and this includes the actual existence of the case itself. So, for example, if someone was the subject of damaging allegations, their lawyers could appeal to the High Court to grant the protection on the client's behalf in order to safeguard their privacy until the case has been heard and a judge has decided whether the information that they say is private should in fact be made public. I hope that helps. Another question, or two questions, are: does anyone know if any nannies are employed by the Montecito pair? And in brackets, might be a clue as to whether there are children there. Well, in answer to that question, I believe that there are no nannies there. From what I've heard, there are no nannies, and I think that some people in the area flew drones over their place to discover that there was no evidence of any children living there, whether children-related stuff in trash cans or toys outside, and they found no evidence at all. And also, we've only heard talk of Doria, Meghan's mother, being there, and in their photos and video clips, it's just been Doria there, no sign of anyone else. And as a lot of people believe those children are borrowed, that they don't have them there all the time, they would have no need for a nanny. Part two of the question is, as the Lilibet child is recorded as having two parents who are not the Montecito pair, could Archie's documentation be checked to see if he too has differently named parents? If so, it would seem that adoption rather than surrogacy was planned. From what I remember regarding Archie's birth certificate, I believe that Harry and Meghan's names were on it, but then you have to ask if the actual certificate was a genuine one. I'm sorry, I don't have any more information than that on that, and it is interesting and maybe worth looking into a little more. Another question, and this person says, this is confusing. If the baby was carried by a surrogate, which she supposedly kept, and it was with Harry's sperm, is the child royal? Well, I've looked into this, and apparently a royal bastard was a common term, which is now mostly dropped from common usage, for the child of a reigning monarch who was considered to have been born outside of marriage, either because the monarch had an extramarital affair or because the legitimacy of the monarch's marriage had been called into question. And then it lists notable, what it refers to as notable royal bastards, which include Robert, Earl of Gloucester, son of King Henry I of England, Henry Fitzroy, son of King Henry VIII of England, and the Duke of Monmouth, son of Charles II. Children born out of wedlock do not have a claim to the throne, even with the subsequent marriage of the parents. To conceive a child via surrogate with, for example, Harry's sperm and a surrogate's egg would mean the child is an illegitimate royal. If the child had Meghan's egg and someone else's sperm, it would not be royal at all. If the child had both Meghan's egg and Harry's sperm, but was carried by a surrogate and given birth to by a surrogate, it would be an illegitimate royal. An illegitimate royal cannot inherit the throne, i.e. cannot become king or queen. If, however, unlikely, Harry and Meghan conceived a child before they were married, that child would be an illegitimate royal and not a legitimate heir to the throne. The only way that Harry and Meghan could have a legitimate heir to the throne would be if it was conceived within marriage and Meghan physically carried it and gave birth to it. However, that would only be legitimate if their marriage is legitimate, which has become a debate in itself. I hope this helps. Another question. I heard this morning that LILI was a twin and that the twin Nutmeg and Harry were supposed to get didn't make it and passed. Well, yes, I heard that rumour as well. And I've actually heard it from more than one source and quite valid sources as well. So I think there could be some truth in this, but obviously there's no evidence. It does make a lot of sense when you think about the timing of everything. And the next question is, if the pictures we see of Archie are truly Archie, there is no resemblance to Harry at all. He looks like the Nutmeg and Marcus Anderson. And I remember one YouTuber finding an announcement from Marcus Anderson claiming he was a new father around the time of Archie's birth. Yes, absolutely. I do remember that myself. There was something, I don't know if it was a tweet on Twitter from Marcus or if it was on Facebook or wherever it was. I do remember him mentioning that he was a new father, and it was at that time. So I'm wondering whether it was to do with maybe a pet dog he had or something like that, and he was just trying to be funny. But it did do the rounds, and I've actually lost that. I cannot find that statement anywhere. So if anybody knows where it is, it would be great to send it to me at the email address in my description. Next question is, you don't go hopping into a birthing tub after an epidural as you cannot move your lower body. The epidural is administered with you lying on your side on the table, and you stay there and the nurses lift your legs into position for birth. You don't get up and hop around anywhere. No eating in case requirement for an emergency caesarean. Absolutely. I've had one and I know people who have had them, and there is no way you could hop anywhere. You have a real hard job feeling your legs. You would not be able to walk to the bathroom. You would have to use a bedpan, and you definitely would not be eating. So all that was blatant lies. And next question is, how can the purported child be named on a birth certificate as MOUNTBATTEN Windsor if the child's birth parents weren't MOUNTBATTEN Windsors and no adoption took place? Don't get me wrong, I don't believe Lilibet exists, but this detail makes no sense to me. Well, I think it just proves one thing. I agree with you. There would not be the name MOUNTBATTEN Windsor on the child's birth certificate. So I think it just proves one thing, and it proves that the certificate itself was forged or fake. And the next question, the royal family dropped a big hint yesterday when there were no birthday wishes for Lilibet. And just to correct misconceptions about royal prerogative and custody, Daniel Shen Smith, KC, black belt barrister, has released a video on this subject. And I have watched it. Some of you guys recommended him. I've watched him, and he's very, very good and worth watching. And he says that in 1717, George I released a statement about upbringing and responsibility for children in the LOS after yet another fallout with his son, future George II. However, this was never put on the statute books as a law. Therefore, no British monarch has any custodial rights over any member of the royal family. So yes, I can understand that there is no law saying this, but my point was that even a royal prerogative could give King Charles a little bit of extra leverage, if you like, even if he doesn't use it. I think the very fact that he can influence laws is another thing. But nowadays, that doesn't happen. The fact that that was never put on the statute books as a law says a lot. So it was almost an unspoken thing. And I think the fact that the British public have sort of grown used to the idea that the royal family have the ultimate say in the heirs to the throne, into any children. It's good to note that it is not an actual law. Well, the next comment from someone is, I found Lilibet in the line of succession and she is 7th, with Harry at 5th and Archie at 6th. This was June the 4th, 2023. I don't understand why the children are there and hope the truth will emerge eventually. Well, thank you for that. I've been reminded that Harry is 5th now, not 6th. Obviously, when the Queen passed away, Harry became 5th rather than 6th. Yes, I don't understand why the children are there either, so as many of us do. So yes, let's hope the truth will emerge. Next question. Charles has no power over the kids, even if they're British, as there is no actual law. Yes, we've just mentioned that. There's only been an historical event which doesn't serve as a precedent. I'm sure that there is no Lily and Archie is borrowed. Yes, I think you are probably right about Lily and Archie. Next question. Celt, what about the rumours on the net that she allegedly had a hysterectomy at 29? Can you look into this? Trevor, her second husband, as her first marriage was annulled, also said in a video that she could not have any children as they had tried for years. The hospital where the supposed Archie was born also said there was no record of her giving birth there. Celt, can you also look into the rumours that allegedly Harry is sterile? Why is the British press so silent and not looking into these lies? I'll answer the first bit. I do remember Trevor having said, or a statement where he supposedly said that she could not have any children as they tried for years. I don't know if this was a video of him actually speaking. I think it's more likely that it was a comment that was made allegedly by him and put into someone's YouTube video. If somebody knows where it is, please let me know. And I think it's probably true. I don't see him saying anything like that unless it's true, but I don't believe that I can look into this because it's all to do with medical records, which are private. I think we have to rely on her family to speak out about this when the time is right. I'm surprised they haven't as yet, or maybe even Trevor coming out with it again on record. The next part of the question is, the hospital where the supposed Archie was born also said that there was no record of her giving birth there. I do remember that as well. There was no record of her giving birth there, and people who were there never saw or heard any mention of her having been there. I know they would keep quiet if somebody from the royal family was there, but even the staff said there was no mention of Meghan being there. And then this person says, Celt, can you also look into the rumours that allegedly Harry is sterile? Well, yes, I mentioned this in a previous video, and while his medical records are private, it was said that he had an operation for undescended testicles, which can leave a man sterile. And I think it's just an assumption because I have looked into this, and they most likely have a low sperm count, but it doesn't actually mean that they most definitely cannot have children. In some cases they do. It might just take a bit longer. I don't know if there are any medical people here that can inform us more about this, but that's what I've found. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult. And then the next part of the question is, why is the British press so silent and not looking into these lies? I think that the press were very silent when Meghan was rebelling And if you remember, way back, the press was silent about a lot of things, and then they suddenly stopped being silent and they started voicing their thoughts on Meghan. And also the same with Harry. The press was silent about Harry and Meghan. And then once it's been doing the rounds on the internet long enough, on YouTube and Twitter, it's almost like the press follows suit and eventually comes out with it. I think that the press will look into this once they have enough proof, and I'm sure that they are all vying for the scoop on this. The next one is a statement. I'm a new subscriber and I'm so impressed you not only read but commented on these very important questions. Thank you. Well, thank you for your kind comment, and I do my best. The next comment is, watch Black Belt Barrister. He did a video on this, and legally King Charles has no jurisdiction over these children if they exist. I'm sure it was surrogates used. Well, yes, I did watch him, and he was really good, as I said. The next comment is, thanks, Celt. Even the name Archie was stolen from Prince George, as Archie was Prince George's secret name. Yes, I also mentioned about that in a video I did years ago, which was quite shocking that Meghan chose the name Archie, knowing that Prince George's name that he was thrilled to use was Archie. He was known as Archie, and it was his security name. I think that could have put him at risk. I don't know if they changed their security names or how frequently they would do it, but that was his. Another comment is, just ask Diana what concerned her during the divorce proceedings. She was concerned about the Queen taking her away from her boys. Charles can do it as well. I think if they want to do something, they'll do it. Next comment is, how do you get to the royal website? And I'll put a link in the description. I think it's simply royal.uk. I think if you put that into your search engine, you'll find it. Another question here. If there is an Archie and a surrogate was used and Meghan could not have children, in brackets no ovaries, wouldn't he belong to the royal family in any case? And my answer is, in theory, yes. Legally, no. I would say that the royal family would always want to have a certain amount of control over any child born of the royals who are in succession to the throne. Any child of Harry's, regardless of who the mother is, would be of concern to the royals. Even though they would be illegitimate royals, they would still have royal blood. And it is their bloodline which is important to them, more than anything, more than a lot of people realise. Whether they would actually try and enforce anything is another matter. And another question here, if the palace knows she photoshopped that photo, and I'm thinking it's the one where the Queen and Prince Philip were photoshopped in, then why haven't they denied it? My answer is because the royal family have always had the motto of don't explain, never complain. While it works well in most circumstances, it doesn't really work when there are such serious things which need addressing. However, I would think that if they were to deny that photo, they would have to say why, give proof, and then it would open a whole can of worms, and it would be never ending. I think that even when the whole truth comes out in the media, and it will, they will still keep quiet, or they will make a safe and generalised and slightly guarded comment. Someone else asks, why can't they just tell the public about the surrogate? Then King Charles can change the law again, like King George did back in the early 1900s. That would update the monarchy. They shouldn't be in the succession until they are confirmed. And my answer is a very good idea. But right now, King Charles, I believe, is in no position to change the law. And another question, referring to Meghan, how did her dog break both its legs? Wouldn't surprise me if MM did it. Anyone know what happened to that poor dog? And my answer is, I understand that it was an accident involving a reversing car and that the dog recovered and the vet was invited to their wedding. So he must have done a good job putting the dog right. So that's all I've got time to answer now, and keep them coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Much love. Bye.